Hey everyone, Eric here. Welcome back. Today we're tackling a really big topic, strategy, and we're going to do it by digging into a fantastic book by the master himself, Richard Rumelt, called The Crux. This whole explainer is about a simple but incredibly powerful idea, how to stop making vague plans and start taking real, effective action.
So let me paint a picture for you, one I bet you've experienced before. You're sitting in the big annual strategy meeting. The CEO is up on stage, all fired up, showing a slide that looks, well, exactly like this one. They announce the grand plan, everyone claps, you clap too, but then you get back to your desk and you're thinking, what does deepen relationships actually mean for my Tuesday morning? How am I supposed to embrace innovation today? They're just words. And the next day, you're right back to putting out the same old fires. That big, flashy strategy, it was dead on arrival.
If that story hits close to home, trust me, you are not alone. This feeling of confusion and helplessness is a massive problem in companies all over the world. Rumelt actually calls it strategy cancer. And this book, The Crux, is the cure. And you should know, this guy isn't just some academic. We're talking about a top professor who's also been in the trenches, advising giants like IBM and Shell. His whole idea is to help us make a crucial shift, from being managers who just check off to-do lists to becoming real strategists who solve problems.
So, how do we make that shift? Well, before we can even think about building a good strategy, we have to get really good at spotting the bad ones. We need to know what the enemy looks like. So let's start there by breaking down the 4 biggest traps that trip everyone up.
All right, trap number 1 is fluff. You know this one. It's all that fancy corporate jargon that sounds super impressive but means, well, absolutely nothing. Leveraging synergistic value creation. Come on, it's just a bunch of buzzwords glued together to hide the fact that nobody's really done the hard thinking. Here's the acid test. If your team asks you, okay, so what should I actually do differently tomorrow, and the strategy can't give a clear answer, then you've got fluff. A good strategy is simple. It's direct. You know exactly what it means.
Trap number 2 is huge, maybe the most common of them all, mistaking a goal for a strategy. When someone says our strategy is to hit 30 million in sales, that is not a strategy. That's a goal. It's a wish. Strategy isn't about what you want to achieve. It's about how you're going to get there. Think of it like this. Your goal might be to drive from Taipei to Kaohsiung, but that's not your strategy. Your strategy is the plan. Are you taking the high-speed rail? Are you driving? Which highway? The how is the strategy.
Okay, trap number 3, the dreaded laundry list. This one's sneaky because every single item on the list sounds like a perfectly good idea. Improve brand awareness, cut costs, optimize the product. They all sound reasonable, but the problem is you have limited time, limited money, and limited people. When you try to do everything at once, you end up achieving nothing. It's like a bad doctor who just throws different pills at every single symptom instead of finding the one disease causing them all. A good strategy has focus. It finds the real problem and concentrates all its power right there.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most dangerous trap, avoidance. This is when a strategy seems to have all the right pieces, but it carefully dances around the giant, scary elephant in the room. Rumelt's example of the bookstore is perfect. They're getting crushed by Amazon, and what's their big strategy? Renovate the stores and add better coffee. It's all busy work to avoid the real, terrifying problem. Amazon is cheaper and more convenient. No amount of fancy coffee can fix that. A good strategy isn't about looking busy. It's about having the courage to face your biggest problem head-on.
So if we avoid those 4 traps, what does a good strategy actually look like? Rumelt gives us a simple but powerful framework he calls the kernel. It has just 3 parts. First, a diagnosis. What's really going on here? What's the core challenge? Second, a guiding policy. What's our overall approach, our game plan for tackling it? And third, a set of coherent actions. What specific, connected steps are we going to take to make it happen? And let me be clear, that first step, the diagnosis, is everything.
And that diagnosis, the heart of the matter, well, that brings us to the single most important idea in this entire book. It's a concept called the crux. Understanding this is a complete game changer. It's about cutting through all the noise to find the one thing that truly matters.
So what is the crux? The term actually comes from rock climbing. On any climbing route, there's always one move or one section that's the hardest, the most critical point of the whole climb. That's the crux. If you can just get past that one spot, the rest of the climb suddenly feels so much easier. In business or in life, it's the exact same idea. The crux is the core challenge that is both super important and actually solvable. And if you can crack that one problem, it unlocks progress everywhere else. Let's make this personal for a second. Imagine your life just feels off, you know? Your productivity at work is tanking. Maybe you've put on a few pounds. You're always in a bad mood, and your relationships are starting to feel the strain. It feels overwhelming, like you're being attacked from all sides, and you have to fight 4 different battles at once. This messy cluster of symptoms is what most business challenges look like at first. But then you do an honest diagnosis. You really think about it, and you realize all of these problems trace back to one single root cause. You're just not getting enough sleep. Boom! That's the crux. Suddenly you don't have 4 problems anymore, you have 1. You solve the sleep problem, and your focus comes back, your mood improves, your health gets better. Instead of fighting a war on 4 fronts, you can focus all your energy on winning one single, decisive battle.
So, how do we find the crux for our business? Rumelt gives us a simple 3-step process. First, list your challenges. Just be brutally honest about every single obstacle holding you back. Second, dig for the root causes. For every challenge on that list, ask why. And when you get an answer, ask why again. Keep going. And third, evaluate and select. Look at all those root causes and ask which one is the real bottleneck. Which one, if solved, would unlock the most progress? And, this is key, which one is actually solvable right now? That is your crux.
Okay, so finding the crux is a massive breakthrough. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. It gives you incredible focus, but that's only half the battle. Now you have to do something about it. This next part is where that powerful insight gets turned into real-world impact.
But hold on, don't just jump into making a to-do list. Before you take any action, you need to establish a guiding policy. This isn't a specific task, it's your overall approach, your philosophy for how you're going to tackle the crux. Think of it as the North Star for everything you're about to do. It ensures that every single action is aligned and pushing in the exact same direction.
Let's look at an example. Let's say your crux is a serious defect in a key product feature. You could have 2 very different guiding policies. Policy A is defensive. Quickly patch the bug, apologize, and do damage control to restore trust. But policy B is offensive. You know what? This crisis is an opportunity. Let's use this as a chance to completely rebuild the feature to be the absolute best in the industry. See that? Same crux, but 2 totally different mindsets that will lead to 2 completely different action plans.
And this is what that looks like in practice. On the left is that typical unfocused to-do list, a bunch of disconnected good ideas. But on the right, under that offensive policy, you have a coherent action plan. Notice how these actions aren't just a list, they're an interconnected system. The elite R&D team is redesigning the feature. At the same time, customer service is proactively reaching out to users, building goodwill. This then perfectly sets up the marketing team for a huge comeback story. The actions aren't just added together, their power is multiplied.
So when you put all of this together, spotting bad strategy, finding the crux, and designing coherent action, what you realize is that Rumelt is teaching us more than just a technique. He's teaching us a fundamental, and I mean fundamental, shift in how we think.
It all boils down to the very first question you ask. A manager typically starts by asking, what are our goals? What do we want to achieve? But a true strategist starts with a completely different question. What is the biggest challenge blocking us from moving forward? That simple shift from being goal-oriented to being challenge-oriented, that is the very essence of becoming a strategist. It turns you from a passive follower of goals into an active solver of problems.
All right, as we wrap up, let's lock in the 3 key takeaways from today. First, learn to spot the enemy. Get really good at recognizing the 4 disguises of bad strategy: fluff, goals as strategy, laundry lists, and avoidance. Second, find the crux. Become a detective, dig past the symptoms, and find that single, core, solvable challenge. And third, act coherently. Once you have the crux, don't just make a to-do list, design an interconnected set of actions where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So I'm going to leave you with a question to take with you. Think about the most important challenge you're facing right now, in your career, your business, your personal life, whatever it is. I want you to take a moment and really think, what is the true crux? What is that single, core, solvable issue that, if you conquered it, would make everything else fall into place? The moment you start seriously asking that question, you're already on your way to becoming a true strategist. If you found this explainer helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it so more people can benefit. And hey, if there's a book you'd love for us to break down next, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Eric, and I'll see you next time.